It was a dark and cold autumn night. The moon was hidden behind dense clouds, casting unsettling shadows on the deserted road. Michael, a long-distance driver, drove his truck along the winding road. The solitude of the road and the sound of rain hitting the windshield were familiar companions on their nighttime drives. However, that night, something was out of the ordinary. An uneasy feeling enveloped him, as if he were being watched by something invisible. The minutes dragged by, and the darkness of the night seemed thicker than ever. Michael was determined to meet the deadline and deliver his valuable cargo. But as he advanced along the deserted road, the feeling that something was wrong overcame him. He realized that his cargo, made up of mysterious antiquities, was affecting his state of mind. That's when something surprising happened. In the rearview mirror, Michael saw a dark figure on the side of the road. His first instinct was to believe it was an illusion caused by fatigue. But when he looked again, the figure was still there, unmistakable. A chill ran down his spine. Someone was standing on the side of the road on that dark, rainy night. It was a strange and unsettling sight. He slowed down, worried about the person's safety. Stopping on that rainy night wasn't safe, but leaving someone at the mercy of the weather didn't seem right either. As he approached, Michael noticed that the figure was motionless, wearing clothes that looked old and torn. Her long hair was soaked and stuck to her pale face. It was as if he had emerged from the past, an apparition in that dark night. "You need help?" Michael called out the window, his voice echoing in the darkness. The figure remained motionless, not responding. His eyes were empty shadows, staring at Michael blankly. The situation was bizarre, and Michael didn't know how to react. Determined to be helpful, Michael got out of the truck with an umbrella in hand, protecting himself from the constant rain. He cautiously approached the mysterious figure. His footsteps echoed on the wet road, and the feeling that something was wrong only grew. Michael approached the mysterious figure cautiously, umbrella in one hand and worry in his heart. The figure remained motionless, empty eyes fixed on him. The rain fell incessantly, as if the sky was crying for that dark encounter. "You need help?" Michael repeated, his voice wavering. He held out his hand with the umbrella to protect the stranger from the cold rain that enveloped her. However, the figure remained silent, as if it were a statue from a nightmare. It was then that Michael noticed something even more disturbing. The figure was covered in mud, as if it had emerged from the damp soil of the road. His bare feet were dirty, and his torn clothes were soaked and filthy. "What happened to you?" Michael asked again, his mind filled with apprehension. He didn't know if he was dealing with a person in danger or something beyond his understanding. The figure finally made a movement, his pale face contorted, as if trying to form words. However, only unintelligible moans escaped her trembling lips. It was a harrowing sound that made Michael's skin crawl. At that moment, whatever that shadowy figure was took a step towards Michael. Her movements were shaky and clumsy, as if she were injured or terrified. The dim light from the truck revealed frightening details. His face was covered in scratches and cuts, as if he had been in terrible agony. The stranger reached out a trembling hand toward Michael, his empty eyes pleading. Michael hesitated, struggling with the dilemma of helping or fleeing. However, his helpful nature spoke louder, and he held the figure's hand for help. It was as if an electric current ran through his body when their hands touched. Michael had a fleeting vision, a glimpse of a deserted road lined with gnarled trees, where shadowy figures murmured unintelligible words. It was as if he had entered a nightmare lived by someone else. The figure let out a piercing scream, its voice echoing in the dark night. Michael was paralyzed with terror, unable to comprehend what was happening. However, when his vision cleared, he found himself back on the wet road, with the figure before him. The rain continued to fall, and the strange figure watched him with empty eyes. Whatever had happened, Michael was now deeply involved in this supernatural mystery. What was happening on that dark, rainy night? Who was the mysterious figure that had appeared on the road? Michael was about to embark on a terrifying journey in which reality and the supernatural intertwined in unimaginable ways. The mysterious figure before Michael continued to stare at him with blank eyes, as if trapped in some kind of trance. The rain continued to fall, creating an even more sinister scenario for the supernatural encounter on the deserted road. Little by little, Michael regained his composure and tried to speak to the figure. "Who are you? What happened here?" He hoped that this time the figure would be able to respond coherently. However, the response was another series of unintelligible groans, followed by words that made no sense in any known language. The figure's face seemed to express agony and confusion, as if it were trapped in a constant nightmare. Michael was deeply worried and confused. He didn't know what to do next. His truck was parked on the deserted road, and the rain continued to fall incessantly. He felt like a character in a horror movie, unable to escape the dark plot unfolding around him. Carefully, he approached the figure, keeping a close eye on its movements. He touched the stranger's shoulder, hoping he could help her calm down and explain what was happening. However, the moment his fingers touched the figure's cold skin, something extraordinary happened. Michael felt a wave of energy running through his body, like an electric current. His vision became blurred, and he found himself transported to a completely different location. He was now in a place he didn't recognize. It was a dense, dark forest, with gnarled trees that seemed to writhe in anguish. The rain fell heavily, soaking the muddy ground. All around him, shadowy figures, similar to the one who had pulled him into this vision, murmured unintelligible words. The figures seemed not to notice Michael's presence. They were absorbed in some kind of macabre ritual. In the center of the scene, a figure in ancient attire knelt, empty eyes fixed on a mysterious stone on the ground. The stone was strangely engraved with arcane symbols and emitted a faint light, as if it were connected to some supernatural force. The figure leading the ritual began muttering words in an ancient language, and a feeling of horror came over Michael. It was then that he realized he was witnessing an event from the past, a scene from a time long ago that had been triggered by touching the mysterious figure. Whatever was happening was beyond his understanding. As the scene from the past unfolded before his eyes, Michael felt an invisible presence approaching him. He was alone in the dark forest, and something was approaching, something that didn't belong to that time or that reality. Back on the wet road, the mysterious figure still stared at him with empty eyes. Michael was deeply disturbed by what he had witnessed. He knew he was involved in a deep, supernatural mystery, an enigma that defied logical explanation. The question that lingered in his mind was, what would happen next? Michael was about to embark on an even more terrifying journey, one in which the past and present would collide in unimaginable ways. The deserted road was enveloped in a sepulchral silence, interrupted only by the constant sound of rain. Michael stood, perplexed and terrified, staring at the mysterious figure that stood before him. The feeling that something supernatural was happening enveloped him, and he didn't know how to deal with it. Whatever had happened, Michael had witnessed a vision from the past, a scene of a macabre ritual in that dense and sinister forest. He couldn't understand how this experience was linked to the mysterious figure on the road, but he was certain he was at the center of a deep, dark enigma. "Who are you?" Michael finally asked, his voice shaking. He was desperate for answers. He wanted to understand what was happening and how it was all connected. The figure continued to look at him with empty eyes, but this time his expression seemed to have a trace of recognition. She slowly raised her hand and pointed towards the forest, towards the scene from the past that Michael had witnessed. It was as if the figure was indicating that he should move on, that the answer to the riddle lay in that dark forest. Michael, feeling compelled to discover the truth, hesitated for a moment before heading in the indicated direction. The walk through the dark, soggy forest was scary. The gnarled trees seemed to whisper dark secrets, and the muddy ground sucked at your shoes with each step. He was alone, surrounded by darkness and the unknown. As he approached the place where the ritual had taken place, the feeling that something was watching him became even stronger. He could feel invisible eyes staring at him, as if he were being monitored by supernatural forces. Finally, he arrived at the ritual site. The mysterious stone was still there, engraved with arcane symbols, but the dim light surrounding it had gone out. The stage was empty, the shadowy figures had disappeared, as if they had never been there. The rain continued to fall, and Michael knew he needed to find answers. He examined the stone more closely, trying to decipher the symbols engraved on it. As he did so, a feeling of vertigo came over him, and he saw another vision. This time, he saw the mysterious figure, the same one who had pulled him on this terrifying journey. She was kneeling before the stone, and tears were streaming down her face. The other specters watched her with blank, indifferent gazes. It was then that Michael understood the dark truth that tied everything together. The mysterious figure was a victim of that macabre ritual, trapped in an endless, tormented existence. She was bound to the stone and condemned to wander between the past and the present, searching for liberation. The realization hit him like a blow. He knew he had to do something to help the mysterious figure find peace. He knelt before the stone, his heart full of empathy and determination. "I promise I'll help you," Michael whispered, his words echoing in the forest. "I will find a way to free you from this torment." As he made the promise, the stone began to glow again, emitting a soft light. The mysterious figure in front of him also seemed to calm down, and his eyes regained a fleeting gleam of recognition. Michael knew that the journey was not over, that he would face greater challenges to fulfill his promise. However, he was determined to unravel the supernatural mystery that had enveloped him and to help the mysterious figure find the redemption he so richly deserved. With the rain still falling, he got up and returned to the road, carrying with him the determination to face the unknown and to face the dark revelations that were yet to come. The road chase had turned into a search for the truth, and Michael was willing to face the supernatural to find answers.